And welcome back to some sort of the Clear Jets podcast. Real Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Michael, we've been talking about this interview for a while. Tim Boyle, welcome to the show. This is the first time we've ever spoke to a quarterback, so I'm really excited about this interview. But there's one question Michael raised to me before we start this whole thing that I think will set the tone for the interview. But you grew up in the middle of Connecticut. You grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, I believe. Were you a New York or a Boston sports fan?
Yeah, so as you guys know, Connecticut split right down the middle, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
you have the Patriots, Giants, and growing up, it was the occasional Jets fan, and yeah, so I leaned more towards the New York for baseball, and then
Okay.
I was a huge Tom Brady fan, so I was one of those weird kids growing up where I was split. I had the Patriots in my back pocket, and I was watching Derek Jeter and all those
Okay.
guys do really well for the Yankees. So I think it's acceptable. Just if you know Connecticut at all, it's like it's truly divided. You get the occasional Jets and Mets fans, but most of the time, like you said, it's the Giants, Patriots, and Red Sox and Yankees. But yeah, I had a pretty cool childhood growing up. Watching a really successful Yankees team. But also, I started falling in love with football when Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls as a young player for New England. So it was a good time for me from a football standpoint, being able to watch one of the greatest to ever do it.
All right. Well, I think it'll be a divisive answer because I know we got a lot of Mets fans, definitely a lot of Yankees fans who listen. And then, football wise, we can let Tom Brady pass a little bit. But like you said, being in Connecticut, it's kind of, yeah, that's kind of the way it goes. I know I lived in a part of New York that borders Connecticut. So I knew some people from Connecticut, and, that corner is sort of all New York based, but,
Yeah.
towards the middle could be a little more divisive. But I want to go back to when you came into the league coming out of Eastern Kentucky. Obviously, you played at Connecticut before that, but what was your draft process like going undrafted and that entire, specifically the pre-draft process, just preparing for the draft and getting yourself ready for that?
Yeah, so I think a huge part of my success coming out of college was I needed to have a good pro day. I didn't play well enough at UConn or EKU to get invited to the combine. I kind of like having that chip on my shoulder now. Everyone always talks about going to the combine, and I have no clue what they're talking about. So I like the fact that I'm still in the NFL 6 years later, and I don't think it necessarily matters going to the combine. I think it helps get the foot in the door for sure. But yeah, I came out of Eastern Kentucky. I trained pre-draft in Washington D.C. with four other guys. I had a small agency at the time, and it was just a blue collar, just grind it out and try to put a really good pro day together because I knew we'd probably get, in between 5 and 10 teams at Eastern Kentucky's pro day. So, ultimately the goal is you just need one opportunity, and I needed to impress one team. So I came out of EKU, and our last game was probably, Thanksgiving time. So I had that month of December to kind of relax with my family and really wrap my head around the fact that, hey, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket here. I've wanted to do this since I was a little kid, and I've always believed in myself. And I thought I always had enough to play quarterback at a high level. But battling, a bunch of interceptions in college and all these confidence and changing teams and transferring, it just, the one constant in my family I'm very grateful for is my family, and they were wonderful during that whole transition. But I went down to Washington, D.C., and I trained from probably the middle of January until my pro day in March, and was incredible for my success. I absolutely killed my pro day. I caught the eye of, thankfully, the Green Bay Packers scout who came to my pro day. I felt like I was physically, mentally in a really good shape to perform really well, and I did, thankfully. And so I did EKU's pro day, and then I think 3 weeks later, I did Yale's pro day. So being from Connecticut, I reached out to Yale to see if they had any skill players who needed a quarterback to throw to them, and they said yes. So I was like, all right, well, would you guys mind if I did, your pro day? And they told me to come on down. So I actually had two pro days in which I threw in front of some good teams, and the Packers were able to see me twice. But for me, a huge part of my success was showing up on pro day ready to go. I wanted to stand out because I knew there was a bunch of quarterbacks in college who were on the fence, kind of a tweener player like myself, right? He looks the part. I'm football smart enough, but all right, when it's actually like time to present yourself and be the quarterback and shaking hands and making sure you're putting your best foot forward, I think that was important for me at my pro day, and I had a top 30 visit with the Packers as well, which I was able to do that. So pre-draft process was fun. it was a tough one just because, mentally you don't know what you're training for. I didn't know if I was ever going to put a helmet on again, so that's the weird part is the self-belief is for sure there, but it's blind optimism at that point. And thankfully, like I said, a good pro day, and it got my foot in the door with the Packers, and I made the most of my opportunities, which I'm extremely grateful for. But pre-draft, in hindsight, was a fun time being down in DC. It was colder weather. Had a really good group of guys, a wonderful coach who trained me and got me ready. So it was a fun time in my life.
Well, so you get to the Packers, and then you're immediately behind one of the best QBs of all time. I know you said you're more of a Tom Brady guy, but still, I imagine you watched Rodgers growing up, and he's another guy who likes to play with a chip on his shoulder. A little bit different than being undrafted, but he's a guy who fell in the draft, and he seems to play with that every single year. So what was that experience like, especially when you first get there? And then kind of what did you learn, especially in that first year, like being under a guy you presumably watched since you were a kid?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I love your background there, Ben. That's a sweet photo. And I'm looking forward to, I think, that Monday night game, 9/11,
Yeah.
against the Bills. Hopefully it looks like that. It's gonna be.
It only looks cool at night. During the day, a little bit looks like an AC.
It's gonna be rocking. We're gonna get that place rocking. I can't an AC unit.
Oh,
I love
yeah,
it.
we're excited though. Yeah, we're both gonna be there. It's gonna be sweet.
To answer your question, like you said, I'm a small town kid from Connecticut, and I grew up watching Tom Brady in the comfort of my small town, home. And now all of a sudden, I'm thrown into the Green Bay Packers organization, and I'm playing underneath Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, like you said, I remember watching him win a Super Bowl in 2010. And
should have been against the Jets.
I know. Yep. I remember being in high school watching that, and I remember being even younger than that, and watching him, shred defenses with Jordy and Driver and all those guys. So it was cool. Like, I understood the Packer history, which was cool to be able to step into those doors and that team and that facility at Lambeau, and truly appreciate the history and the tradition for that Green Bay has to offer. But being around Aaron really is special. And I tell people this all the time, and I'm a firm believer in that we're a product of our environment. And if you surround yourself with good people, with a good heart and a good mindset, and who are obviously extremely talented like Aaron, it's naturally going to raise your level of competition, your level of play. So I was very grateful to come in at a really good time where, no team was asking me to come in and be the starting quarterback. And I was able to just kind of come in and process and understand and learn. And especially my rookie year, I mean, I really came in and I was eyes open and mouth shut. I was more absorbing everything going on around me, trying to figure out, hey, what does it take to be a successful quarterback? What does it take to extend your career in the NFL? And Aaron's one of the best on the field, but also just watching his habits. He's very diligent and very consistent with his approach every week, and that was very cool to see. My rookie year, we had a tough season. I believe we were 6-9-1, and Aaron brought it every day. Even when we were had a not great record in Packers standards, he showed up every day and led the team, and it was cool to see his resiliency. So super cool to be able to call him a friend now, a good friend. And it's weird, he's 11 years older than me, but we're in the quarterback room every day, and it's like he's my big brother, I'm his little brother. And that's been the cool part. And that's the fun part with the NFL. You meet so many cool people, and you're able to form those bonds and that friendship and the brotherhood. But yeah, it's awesome to be able to compete against Aaron every day. It naturally raises my competition level, and he's a special player and a special person. And I'm glad he's taken me under his wing.
Yeah, and Aaron isn't the only guy who you met in Green Bay who's with you with the Jets now. Alan Lazard is another guy who's on this Jets offense you played with in Green Bay. Both of you were undrafted 2018. Lazard comes to the Packers at the end of that season. He started in Jacksonville. And then 2019, you guys played a lot together in the preseason. You hit him on that big touchdown against Houston. I watched that. So can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Alan, and what did you see from him in that preseason that kind of, you being a fellow undrafted free agent who was able to stick in the league, what did you see from him that let you know, okay, he's a guy who's going to stick around and be successful?
Yeah, and I want to open that question up by saying Allen is an absolute badass in the fact that he has climbed from an undrafted free agent who started out with the Jacksonville Jaguars to now signing a 4-year, $44 million contract. And I was able to see the bulk of his work and the bulk of his progression as a receiver. You know, he comes in as a rookie and he's on practice squad majority of the year, and then he gets an opportunity late in the season. And I remember DeShone Kizer, I think last game of the season, threw him a little hitch, you know, 5-yard hitch route, and we were all super hyped for Allen because it's his rookie year. He just had an NFL catch in a real game, and it's like, all right, let's go. Like that you kind of get the ball rolling at that point. And then he had a wonderful offseason coming into 2019, like you said, and he's a huge guy. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever met Allen, but he's a legit 6'5", 225. Like, he's a thoroughbred horse. You know, he's a big guy, and he's special to be around because he's got the mentality of, hey, I was not given anything here. Like, I've had to work for everything that he's achieved and he's gained. But Aaron said it, and I say it too. A huge part of being a reliable receiver is being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And Allen understands that premise of the route does not have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be run exactly how it's drawn, but you have to understand how to feel a defense and understand how my feet as a quarterback in the pocket has to marry up with the timing of your route depth. And I think Allen does a really good job of understanding defense and how to manipulate his releases and try to get into certain coverages. And obviously he was around really good receivers in Green Bay, obviously Devontae with his releases, but I'm grateful he was around Randall as well. And we're all super grateful to be back around Randall. He's just, I think he's supernatural at just understanding defenses and a true slot who understands what a defense looks like and how to fit into these little zones and not run to get covered. And that's why Aaron's had so much success with him. And that's why Aaron trusts Allen, because he's where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. And it's been super cool to be, you know, staying in touch with Allen. We spent 3 really good years together in Green Bay. And then I was in Detroit those 2 years in 21, 22, and fortunate enough that we played the Packers twice a year. So I was able to see those guys twice and stay in touch. And here we are, you fast forward another year and we're on the same team together. And it's been a fun spring being able to hang out with him and kind of just reconnect and bring that friendship back from, you know, when we were super close back in Green Bay. You know, that's the weird part. You know, you're super close to these guys and all of a sudden you're on a new team and you don't see him for a few years, but Allen and I picked up right where we left off, and I'm so happy for him. He's worked his absolute ass off, and he's earned everything that is coming to him. So I'm very happy for him, and he's going to have a great year for us. I truly believe that.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to watching him because, I mean, Jets already have so many weapons in place with Garrett and Brees, and then just to add Allen Lazard to that mix and Randall Cobb here as well. It's a really great group, and all you guys are going to be playing under another former Packer you're familiar with, Nathaniel Hackett, who's coming over. And we've heard so much positive about Hackett behind the scenes, just his personality and the energy he brings to the room. So can you talk a little bit about what Hackett brings to the locker room in terms of his energy and his leadership?
Yeah, I mean, the energy he brings is truly contagious. You know, if you walk in and you're having a horrible day and you're around Coach Hackett for 5 minutes, just his energy, his eye contact, the way he explains and teaches and coaches, you really want to re-engage with football. You know, there are some coaches who I've had in high school, college, NFL, or you know, they're on the drier side. It's more black and white. It's businessy. You come in, they teach you, and you get out. But you know, we're all human beings at the end of the day. We want to be, you know, impacted. And I think Coach Hackett does such a good job of creating these individual bonds, so he can relate with me. He can relate with Aaron. He can relate with Zach. He can talk to Garrett and have his respect just based off of the fact that he's so personable and he's so energetic all the time, which as a player, you love for your coaches to be like that, because I'm a firm believer and you take the personality of your position coach, your offense coordinator, defense coordinator, your head coach. I think the team takes on the personality of their coaches. So you know, when we're in meetings, we keep it loose, we keep it fun, and I think that's exciting. But just based off of his offense, I mean, he knows how to call an offense. He knows how to call a game, and being with him 2 years in Green Bay and being able to see how he and Aaron were able to kind of formulate a game plan and also coach LaFleur, but kind of the meeting of the minds was really cool. And I'm excited to see what Aaron and Coach Hackett, you know, are going to bring to the table this year, just from a relationship standpoint, because as much as the player coach, I mean, they're really good friends. And that's the cool part, I think, is the connection, the camaraderie we have in that quarterback room, you know, with Coach Downing, Coach Hackett, Coach Calabrese, and obviously the 4 quarterbacks. I mean, it's a special group, and Coach Hackett's definitely the leader of that circus.
Yeah, how does he make life, I guess, easier for a quarterback? Because we know how much Aaron loves Nathaniel Hackett, and it seems like his coaching style, in particular, tends to get the best out of his quarterbacks. I know last year a little different, but as an OC, he's been able to really squeeze some great seasons out of these guys.
Yeah, and I think it's a two-part answer in my opinion. I think the energy, like it's contagious. Like you want to play for someone like that. I think as a player, like I would play for Coach Hackett any day. He just from an energy and he understands what a football game is supposed to look like. He doesn't do things just to do things. He has a rhyme and a reason. He's very intentional. But I think the best part about Coach Hackett after being with him now, and I really learned this past spring, spending a lot of time with him and him relearning the offense with us, is he's an incredible teacher of the game of football. He breaks the quarterback position down where, sometimes it's very simple at quarterback and you need to keep it simple, but your brain is always going. You're always thinking about, what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? What happens if they bring cover zero? What happens? What's your answer if it's man coverage? If it's zone, what's your thought process? So he does a really good job of teaching a play, teaching a pass concept, and making you understand why we're calling it, what's the intention, what are your problems, what's your read, and we truly dive into the play. And most quarterback rooms, that I want to generalize here, but you implement a play, and most guys have been around it. You don't really talk through it that much. You kind of just know how to read it. But Coach Hackett, every time he implements a play and installs a play, he's going through the read, the timing, the progression, everything that goes into it. So we're able to take detailed notes, go back to him late at night and really study it and make sure we're comfortable with it. So I think getting the quarterback to understand the why and not just, hey, go do it, but understanding, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is why I'm calling this play, is extremely beneficial. And he does a wonderful job of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and as somebody who's played under Hackett for a few years, you've been behind Rodgers. It seems like the main goal of this QB room, at least from what we've heard, is it's just been communication. That guys have been stopping in the middle of meetings and explaining things, which maybe necessarily wasn't the case last year if you listen to what some of the players have had to say. So when you look at a young player like Zach Wilson, who clearly comes in the league, high draft pick, and struggles, but has all the potential in the world, he's just got to, I guess you could tell me better than I could tell you. I guess what does playing under a guy like Hackett and playing behind Rodgers do for Zach? I mean, how I know you've only spent OTAs with him, but yeah. I guess what can you say about how it'll benefit him and his career?
Yeah, and I do want all the Jets fans, who are going to watch this to understand that Zach truly is a quality human being, and he understands exactly what he's doing. He's a wonderful, talented quarterback, and he's a pleasure to be around every day. But Zach has really impressed me, and you have to understand, being the guy, he's the starting quarterback of one of the biggest sports markets in the world, and all of a sudden now you're kind of knocked down a peg. And I think it's going to allow him, and I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think it's going to allow him to take a fresh breath of air and, like myself, dive into what Coach Hackett presents us. And that's truly understanding the why. Because Aaron, like you said, I'm glad you brought that up, but Aaron, this springtime has been awesome when it comes to, hey, if there are questions in the meeting, or if Aaron's kind of thinking outside the box on something, he stops the whole meeting and he really breaks it down for the quarterbacks. And I think obviously very beneficial for me, Chris, but like Zach, right? I mean, Zach is a talented quarterback. He can get the job done, but we're all human beings at the end of the day too, right? I mean, there's struggles, there's losses, there's media, there's all these kind of things that are floating around. And I think for him just to really get back to his grassroots and understand, hey, I'm here to learn how to play quarterback efficiently, and we're going to learn from one of the best to ever do it. And I'm going to push Zach too, and him and I are going to compete. And I love the fact that Chris is up here too, and we all kind of have this really cool bond that we formulated during spring. But yeah, Zach has impressed me, and it's no easy feat having to accept someone who's essentially taking your job, right? But he's taken it extremely well, and Aaron's done a wonderful job of kind of taking him under his wing as well, and making him understand, hey, this is what I'm seeing here. And Zach kind of comes and says, hey, well, this is what I was thinking, and you have that conversation that blossoms into this beautiful understanding of what we're trying to do. And I think it's extremely healthy for the quarterback room. But no, Zach has definitely impressed me, and he's going to be a good quarterback in this league for a long time. And to be honest with you, this is my opinion. I think this is probably a great thing for him. You know, being able to take a step back, take a fresh breath of air, and learn from Aaron, and kind of get his confidence, kind of get his swagger and his mojo back, and hit the ground running after.
Yeah, you spoke about some of the things that I guess us as fans or even sports analysts don't really think about, but all these different factors that make up what's going through a QB's head on game day. I mean, I guess for you can only speak for you, but how much do like nerves play a factor? Or, you know, last year we heard the term like he's got the yips, where, you know, I imagine he's just overthinking his mechanics and missing routine throws that he, you know, otherwise wouldn't miss. Or in your case, as a backup entering the game, I mean, how much is the mental aspect kind of just overlooked as a QB?
Yeah, I mean, quarterback is extremely mental, obviously, right? You get majority of football players are, you know, bulky and physical, and they're out of breath, and we're always the ones just calm, kind of, you know, we run around a little bit, but everything's above the neck, you know, where you have to think through so many things. And that's the part I think that people don't understand is, you know, you have to plan for best case scenario every play, and you have to plan for, you know, the left guard slips and now you have a three technique on your lap at the top of your drop. So you have to be able to, I think that's the nerves you talk about is really just the unknown of what's going to happen. But the beautiful thing I learned in Green Bay was, you know, confidence comes from preparation. And if you prepare and you feel confident and you've watched film and you understand the game plan like the back of your hand, you just get to go out and play and relax and react. And I think football is a reaction-based game where if you think through everything, you're going to be slower. But if you are able to play confidently, relax, and react to what you're seeing, I think that's when everyone plays at their best. And it's always nerve-wracking. You know, it's a performance-based industry. You know, there's a little bit of pressure you got to put on yourself of, hey, you know, I don't know how long this career is going to last me. I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to get. So you got to put your best foot forward. And I think that kind of the competitive competition of production really lights a fire under your ass a little bit and kind of keeps you sharp.
Yeah, now I want to ask you a little bit more about some of the nuances of playing quarterback that the average fan might not understand, because it's not often you get to talk to an NFL quarterback. You are the first quarterback we've had on this podcast. And we've had some great teammates of yours on here. We've had JFM, Bryce Huff, Thomas Morstead came on recently, but quarterback is a completely different animal. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, get into your head about what that job is like. So can you take us through a typical play during a game, you know, from the point you get the call to relaying it in the huddle, pre-snap to post? Like, what is that entire process like?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, you're wrapping up from the last play. So I'm starting from essentially play just ran, play ends. I'm getting in the helmet as quick as possible with personnel. So I'm hearing in my helmet, hey, we're in 11, we're in 12, we're in 13X. And I'm relaying the personnel, and the sideline is signaling it. So everyone's looking at the sideline to see, hey, who's going to be in the game? And I'm echoing it. And while that's all happening and people are running on the field and we're getting our personnel set, I'm getting the play from the offense coordinator. And I like hearing the play only one time because I like picturing it and being able to have time in the huddle and look at my guys and spit the play out with some confidence. But yeah, there's a lot to consider. The second I step into the huddle real quick, I'm taking a peek at the shot clock. Because if we're 25 seconds, I'm good. I can take a breath. Like we're in no rush. If we're closing on 15 and I'm just getting in the huddle, I know I have to speak with some tempo and I need to get guys lined up. If we have a motion, I gotta, right when you break the huddle, I gotta get the motion sent. Like there's a lot of from huddle to huddle break to lineup. There's a lot of eyes checking the clock. Are we lined up right? Where's the back? What's the front? What's the defensive line's front? Are they an over front, under front, even front? It's the linebacker location. Do I think I'm going to get nickel pressure based off the safety capping them? Are they trying to disguise? Is the boundary corner pressed on the X and the safety's kind of off the hash? Am I going to get a corner cat? Like while all that's happening, you're also trying to check the clock and you're calling for the cadence and you're seeing with, I call it a soft focus. It's kind of like when you're kind of let your eyes go a little bit and you can feel everything around you, is you kind of get to feel where pressure's coming from based off of where guys are even leaning one way or just leaning that way. But I think that's where, like I said, preparation, the confidence comes from preparation. So I trust on game day that when I'm back there and I'm going back and I'm seeing an over front and the free safety's coming down and I might get an overload pressure to my left, I need to be able to trust the fact that I'm going to, hey, easy, remike the protection, bring it to the will, get the slide going that way. Now the back's coming for the free safety, and I got it all picked up. So that's the fun part about playing quarterback is it, like if you were to come up and it's easy every time, and like we'd be great at quarterback, right? You just drop back and deal with the rush and just. But defenses nowadays are making things so difficult, and they're disguising so much. So you really have to be disciplined with snap count, even because now you're getting these 6'5", 6'6", 260-pound werewolves on third down coming to hunt us. And the way we can slow them down is by changing up our cadence. So if they get a hold of our cadence and they think they can jump our cadence, that's when they're dangerous, right? Because the tackles are a little slow to get out. But if I change my cadence, they have no clue when the ball is going to get snapped. Now it's a fair game on the outside. So a big part of that is changing up my snap count. And that's something I learned from Aaron Rodgers, obviously in Green Bay, that he does such a good job of changing snap counts, but also the hard count, getting a free play and trying to take a shot. But there's definitely a lot to think about. We break it down in the quarterback room. You want to see the front, the D-line, you want to see the linebacker location, and you want to see the secondary. And most of the time, if you gather all that information, you'll have, by process of elimination, a certain amount of things that you can only see. But yeah, that's the fun part. Every play is a chess match. And like I said earlier, you plan for the best case scenario. You know, you can take a nice easy drop, a nice three, and it's a clean pocket, and I can throw the ball I want to throw, or you have to plan for the fact that the right tackle tripped, and now I have to step up and bail out right, and now I'm scrambling. So you don't really know how the play is going to shake out, but you also have to have a plan for all these things, and that's the fun part that I enjoy.
Would you say pre-snap or post-snap is harder?
Playing football is tough.
Yeah.
That's the post-snap. Yeah. Pre-snap is very heady. It's a lot of disguise. It's a lot of game within a game. You know, you'll get super smart linebackers who are listening to offensive line calls and what the quarterbacks are saying, and they're now trying to get a jump on what you're doing based off of what we're communicating with. So what Aaron has done a good job of over the past, and he's played against Urlacher and Hendricks and Barr and Minnesota and all these guys, is you start messing with the defense now with dummy calls or things that, you know, you're trying to make them think, hey, we're going to do this, but now we're doing that. So there's also a game within a game, which is the fun part that I've really enjoyed, you know, kind of getting into, you know, the second half of my career here of, you know, truly being comfortable in the huddle and understanding I can start playing around the defense a little bit, not just be a robot, break the huddle, come up and snap the ball. But yeah, it's the tough part is definitely playing football, you know, catching the snap and confirming coverage post snap, feeling the rush. And that's, you guys always probably hear, you know, the quarterback looked at the rush. You can't throw the ball efficiently downfield if you're looking at who's around you. So the tricky part about quarterback, and I don't feel like most people understand this, is you are reading coverage and you are seeing defenders and you're seeing routes, but you are feeling what's going on around you in the pocket. So your eyes are downfield, but you feel you have to move a little bit. And so like that's the tricky part. And we drill that all the time in practice of, you know, pocket movement and feeling comfortable and small subtle movements in the pocket where you still remain balanced and you can throw an accurate ball. But you know, that's what makes Aaron so special. You know, he can throw an accurate ball from pretty much any position. So it's been fun to be around him.
And you mentioned sort of, you know, Rodgers' ability to make dummy calls and do some of those things at the line of scrimmage to create advantages for himself. Like, how unique is that skill? And like, how many quarterbacks are able to develop that? Is that something that you need to sort of get to his level of, you know, experience and just how comfortable and confident he is? Or is that something that, you know, can be developed on its own?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of it is philosophy within the offense. You know, Aaron grew up around Brett Favre, and Brett did the same thing. I think Aaron took it to a whole nother level. But every quarterback is capable of doing it. You know, Aaron's more of a aggressive snap count, right? So he's trying to get guys to jump, where Jared Goff in Detroit, he was saying a cadence, not necessarily to get them to jump, but to have the defense kind of tip their hat. And so the corners and the safeties are thinking the ball is going to get snapped just by his cadence. And now Jared can see the coverage based off of, like I said earlier, you know, is the safety leaning that way? And so there's different philosophies of using cadence. Is it to jump? Is it to get guys to jump for a free play, or is it to pretty much unpack a defense? And I feel like every quarterback does it, but I think the older you get, the more experience, the more comfort, the more trust you have in the O-line, because that's a huge thing too. You don't want to do a super hard count and all of a sudden now we're on offense jumping, you know, false start. So
Yeah.
it's one of those kind of double-edged swords. But yeah, being around Aaron, he's probably the best to ever do it. So I definitely took it from him and developed it on my own too. And kind of you have your own voice inflections, and that's kind of the fun part of understanding. What gets a defensive lineman to jump? Is it a hard count, or is it it's subtle, hard? And that's what I've kind of learned from Aaron. So definitely quarterbacks can all do it, but I think it's a comfort thing and a philosophy thing within the scheme.
You kind of feel like every year I mean, this might be a dumb question, but every year in the league, it kind of gets easier for you, that it kind of just gets a split second faster. Or does it just come with?
I would say it gets a little slower. I mean, and I think the fun part right now is just like I've been in this offense before, so I'm not grinding to relearn an offense. I've had familiarity in this offense, so I understand the verbiage, the concepts. So it allows me right now to kind of enter into the 200 and 300 level kind of place within the offense of playing the game within a game of protection, making sure everything's covered. But yeah, it's definitely comfort within the system. But I'm grateful, like I said, that I've been in this system, so it allows me to kind of dive a little deeper into my pre-snap plan and my post-snap plan.
When you guys were when you were with the Packers, you guys played the 49ers and Robert Saleh's defense, I think 4 times. I guess what were your biggest takeaways from what Saleh and that type of defense, that wide 9 front that he ran in San Francisco and that he brought to the Jets with Jeff Ulbrich? I guess what are your takeaways from that schematic philosophy from a quarterback's perspective? What's difficult about it? And then maybe what are some of the things that you try to exploit, and how much of what you saw when he was with the 49ers kind of translates to what you're seeing in practice now with the Jets?
Yeah, I think Coach understands that a good defense is built from, the big guys up front and back, and not saying our guys on the back end or linebackers are not great players, because they obviously are. We have some of the best defensive players in the game right now, but being able to rush the quarterback is what the NFL is all about. And I think Coach understands that. And when he was in San Fran, we played them all those years, and they got the better of us. Unfortunately, he had probably arguably the best defensive line that ever existed in football. I think it was 4 or 5 first rounders. And at that point, you can put 5 defensive linemen out there and essentially just, it's a one-on-one versus an offensive lineman the whole game. And, you're betting on my guy's better than your guy. And I think you kind of definitely feel that right now. We're built pretty well up front, and we have really good edge players, and we set edges, which is really good, but we also have really good a pocket push, obviously, which is huge on a quarterback too. But a lot of defenses right now are going more towards a too high kind of shell, is what we call a defense, where it's, it might be quarters, it might be a quarter cover 2 on the other side. And what Coach Saleh does a really good job of too is his defensive philosophy is we do not want to let up big plays. So, they're run, they get out for pass, but we're not trying to throw the ball. They don't want the ball thrown over their head. So, you see it all the time in OTAs. This past, OTAs, we have a chunk play, we have a play action, and they super soft, and we have to check it down to the running back with a tight end in the flat. So they do a really good job of getting really good depth in their coverage. It's frustrating for us, right? Because there's a little bit of ego too of, hey, we want to push the ball downfield a little bit too and get some explosives, and that's kind of how you get the offense going a little bit. But Coach does a really good job of understanding that it's a bend don't break defense, and they're okay with you throwing a 7-yard completion and you have the team rallying to you instead of a one-on-one ball for 55 yards over our head. But our defense is stingy, and it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be seeing number 1 out there, number 4 on the edges is pretty dynamic, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone out there for training camp and getting after those guys, because that's the fun part. We're a team at the end of the day, but training camp, we're 2 different teams. We love each other, but it's we're trying to get after each other every day, and that's the fun part. But
you've been in any training camp fights, Tim?
Myself, no. I've broken one up in Green Bay.
Okay.
What about the one you got in with Rodgers? You got in a little wrestling match?
Those were so he was just bullying me lightly. I think it was a 3rd-year player. I still earned it at that point, right? Just bullying me a little bit. So we kind of created this plan that I was gonna, push him, give him some trouble too. And then the 3rd one was open contest. So yeah, that was pre-practice stretch. Aaron came and sneak attacked me, and I held my own, but
Yeah.
I'll probably bring something back for training camp. I don't think he's gotten the best of me yet.
Just no
Uh,
injuries, please.
yeah,
No injuries.
please,
I'll keep it
please.
clean. I'll keep it clean.
I'm curious to ask you this because I'm a big analytics and stats guy, and obviously it's become very prevalent in the NFL over the past, decade or so, whether it's game planning, game day decision making, stuff like that. So, always curious to ask players, what type of role do analytics play from your perspective, whether it's like evaluating your performance or game planning, finding weaknesses in a team? What type of role has, data and analytics, that kind of stuff, play in
Yeah.
your day to day?
That's a good question. I think when you zoom out of football and you're able to look at big chunks of numbers, I think it's wonderful. But what I've learned, and I think most coaches and players would understand, is if you get the job done on game day and you win 9-6, numbers don't matter. We're getting paid to win football games, so you kind of flirt with numbers are really critical, and we lean on them, especially during our bye week when we do our self scout, and we're able to look at what we do and what our you know what we do well, but what we don't do well, what we do too much. It's kind of the self scout of all these numbers come out of nowhere, and it's you kind of go into the second half of the season with a whole nother thought process. But um, we game plan around numbers, but when it comes to football, we always say it's Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's. It's thinking people, it's scheme, it's getting guys in the right spots, and um, yeah, it's a good question, and I haven't really explored too much into all the analytics, but I know at the end of the day, football is won with guys and moments, and having a good team camaraderie, and having a really good locker room, and being able to execute in critical situations is truthfully what it's about. And like I said, when you zoom out of those moments and you get statistics and you're able to assess what you're doing well, I think that helps you. But yeah, I think it's one in the trenches on the field.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, I promise we'll let you go in a second, but I have two other questions for you. I guess to wrap it up with an actual question, the last one's a bit of a joke, but as a backup quarterback, your mentality entering the season, because obviously this is a team that has a lot of expectations. This is a team that I think has Super Bowl expectations, and as a backup quarterback, you prepare like the starter, but I think, maybe selfishly, I would say I hope we don't see you, because that would mean we would lose Rodgers. But I know from your perspective, you want to play, you want to help this team win. So I guess kind of what's your mentality entering the season as a backup QB?
Yeah, it's a good question. And there's a competitive aspect of, yeah, of course I'd like to be the guy. Of course, Zach would love to be the guy. Chris would love to be the guy. There's always that competitive, I want to play football. I don't want to just be around, you want to go play football. And that's why we love preseason, because we are at least going to play
Got
those
4
games.
games.
Exactly. I can't wait. Can't wait. But yeah, and I learned this early on, being an undrafted guy. My big motto was control the controllables. If it's out of my control, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to think about it. Whatever reps I get, whatever situation I'm put in, I'm going to put my best foot forward and let the chips fall where they may. And backup quarterback's interesting just because you are doing so much during the week and you're preparing like you're one play away, because you are. Everyone says that, but it's true. You're on the sidelines and you're mentally and emotionally engaged in the football game, but you're not doing anything physically. And then all of a sudden, this happened to me in 21. Jared went down and hurt his knee. And all of a sudden, it's like, all right, helmet strapped up, taking 2 snaps with the center real quick, and you're going and being the quarterback of the football team.
Heartbeat
So
at like
happens,
200.
it happens quick. But being able to, like, all right, this is my job. Like, yeah, you get nervous, you get a little cotton mouth, like you kind of have to settle into the game, but it's still my job. Like this, I prepared all week. Like I'm not, just because I'm a backup doesn't mean I didn't put in less work than the starter. I think the issue that most backups will say is that we don't ever get reps in season. So the backup quarterback gets all the scout team reps, and maybe the practice squad quarterback or the third string quarterback, they kind of split those reps, but the starter gets all the reps during the week. So if you play, if a backup plays in a game, they're going off of 0 physical reps during the week. So they are essentially not, I don't want to say free balling it, but they have no timing. This is the first time they're doing that in this setting, because you'd think that, the offense stays the same every week, but it really doesn't. We have different plays and different different attackers for different coverages, and so that the game plan shifts a little different, and it requires practice. It requires the quarterback to go out there and physically do it. So that's why I respect backup quarterbacks, because it does take a lot. It's mental, it's competitive because you want to play, but you're also a huge cheerleader. You're there for the guys on the sideline. You're a big part of the team because you're the next guy up. But on game day, you're there encouraging. You're there coaching guys up. That's the fun part. When you get into a game and it's like, I got to go tell the receivers that, hey, get ready for this coverage and this adjustment. And Aaron's telling, me to go talk to the tight ends about, hey, if he gives them this signal, this is what I want you to do. So it takes a village on game day, and that's the fun part, and trying to help facilitate for obviously the starter, but the whole team, the whole offense at that point.
Yeah, the last time, and Michael and I were talking about this like 2 weeks ago, the last time the Jets had a season where the backup quarterback didn't see any time was 2011. So
wow.
it could happen. Selfishly, wow. I hope not. But, hearing you kind of talk about your preparation, your process, it does make us feel a lot better if you or Zach have to enter the game. Last question. There was a quarterback, I won't name his name. He was before you were in the league, who talked about how his offseason preparation, he had played a lot of Madden, and that had kind of helped him. How realistic is that? Can Madden help you read a defense, or is he bullshitting?
No. So this is another thing that people do not understand. And I know it's going to be very basic, but whenever you watch a football game on TV or you're in the stands even, you have a little bit of a bird's eye view, right? You're able to see different layers of players, and to you, it looks very simple. So when you're playing Madden, right, you kind of have this so you're able to see exactly what coverage it is, and you're able to see. But when you're playing quarterback back there, I'm 6'4", and my offensive line is 6'5", 6'6". Like, I have to see through people, and like, I don't get that perspective that everyone sees. Right. That like everyone views football that, oh, why didn't he see that? Like, no, we have bodies. We have bodies in front of us, and I know that's very simple, but people don't really consider that because they're so used to watching a game on TV or watching, playing Madden. I would say Madden's fun for players like us because we can see.
Do you put yourself as the starter?
So fun fact about me, I'm not a gamer. I don't own a console. Right. I don't.
Probably
game.
Good.
Yeah,
that won't be in your next contract, I guess.
No, I don't have to worry about that one. I've never really enjoyed gaming. It's fun to do in the winter months occasionally, but I try to do something a little bit more productive for myself. But yeah, Madden's definitely fun for us because we can see it, and we know what the answer should be versus what I'm seeing, but that's not really realistic. No.
That is a good point, because I know it's simple, but just the fact that your perspective is so much different than what we see is something that a lot of people don't consider. But I got one more for you, and this is a question we like to ask any player that comes on this podcast. I'm sure they never get asked about it anywhere else, but what is your favorite color uniform for the Jets? God. Is it the black jersey? Is it the white? Or is it the green?
I'm fired up to wear the black. I know it's not a traditional answer. I love the helmets are sweet, and I think you look good, you feel good, you play good. I'm a huge believer in that. But you know what I'm excited for? I don't know if we're gonna pull it off, but just like the all white, like a clean all white unis.
Oh yeah,
I would love to do just like the snow all the way down, all white.
How do you feel about them? Because you went from like the Packers have like the most traditional uniform in all of football. Now you're playing for a very modern looking uniform. There's a lot of critics on this uniform, a lot of fans. How do you feel about it?
I'm a fan actually, and I actually am a huge fan of the helmets. I don't know if you guys can see them up close, but it's a beautiful green color, and there's these sparkles in it. It's not just like a green. Yeah. It's like the helmets are pretty cool actually. And obviously the matte black helmets. I mean, that's like something you do in college. So the fact that you get an opportunity to do that in the NFL, it's pretty cool. But I'm a fan of the jerseys. I haven't tried the actual game jersey on. Ultimately, I think all we care about is comfort and making sure it's not like tight or anything like that. But hell yeah, I'm ready to throw on the green and white, baby. Let's do it.
We talk about the uniforms a lot in this podcast, so I knew Michael. Every interview.
I'm glad you're a fan of the black. A lot of Jets fans are old school and kind of lean towards old uniforms.
And I get that.
I feel them. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. But these offer a lot. They're sleek. I like them.
Yeah, sleek. That's a good word. Yeah.
Tim, normally at the end of the interview, I would shout out your Twitter, but I don't think you have one.
Deactivated Twitter. I think
nice.
It's about time. Yeah,
Respect.
It's too much negativity, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
And I realized after I pulled the plug on Twitter that majority of us get all of our information and our news off of Twitter, and I realized that not always super reliable. As convenient as it is from a timing standpoint, there's just too many opinions that are treated as fact, and I try to separate myself from that.
Okay, well,
you picked a good time to do it, because now more than ever, like, anyone could buy a check mark and pose as news.
Exactly.
So
It really is.
I have so much respect for anyone who isn't on social media.
Yeah. It's I have Instagram, and I stay in touch with the people I want to stay in touch with. But yeah, Twitter, it's funny at times, and you get a good chuckle. But I'm trying to refrain from the scrolling for an hour and a half. And
probably smart.
Looking up, and I'm like, oh, where'd my day go? So
yeah. Especially if you're like an athlete, then you can name search and find some random angry
it's
dude.
counterproductive. It's counterproductive, and so I just separate myself from it. And I think my family has too. It's more of a thought process.
I think your dad did like a tweet of mine, by the way, a few weeks ago, but then he unliked it. So I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I got to get in touch with my dad about that. That's dad ball. That's dad ball.
Tim, we really appreciate you we went very long, but that was fascinating to actually get to talk to an NFL quarterback. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Best of luck. I know you said you are enjoying your time between OTAs and training camp, but best of luck in training camp and in the preseason. We're very excited to get to watch you out there.
Thank you.
Are there what's the big goal for preseason? Are there any stat goals in preseason?
Big goal. Ultimately it's about making the roster. It's I understand the quarterback room we have, but it's the competitor in me wants to make it tough for the Jets to get rid of me. And I think ultimately that's my goal, is to play well and to have them trust me enough to want to keep me and value me. But yeah, I just want to compete and have fun and continue to get to know the guys and the receivers. And, that's the fun part. Training camp is a grind, and it's hot and it's fun, but it's you find out a lot about yourself and the team. Football. Yeah. I love it. But I do have to mention this though. I don't know how many local viewers we have, but I do have a football camp coming up.
There we go.
I'm doing a football camp July 8th. It is in Middletown, Connecticut. I don't know how many people are willing to drive to Connecticut. But it's July 8th at my high school that I went to, Xavier High School in Middletown, Connecticut. It's from 10 to 1:30. We'll do some snacks, some prizes, some ice cream. We're going to have some fun with it. Just play some music, learn some football, get some cool players come down. So if anyone is interested, the link is on my Instagram on Eventbrite. But I just wanted to mention that because it's closing in. We got a few more weeks before this thing shows up. And I just want to make sure if anyone wants to come down, come on down. More the merrier.
All right, well, we'll make sure to tweet it out. I was going to try to find the actual link so I could.
Thank you very much.
I could I guess we'll tweet out the link. So go to our Twitter, which is at CYJPod. Although we did just kind of do a negative advertisement for Twitter, but you can follow Michael _Nania, myself, Ben W. Blessington. Go to jetsxfactor.com, best place to go for Jets content. Tim, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. But yeah, everybody have a great week. Go Jets.